Hello, it's Mrs. Slominski. Last year I was Miss Peterson, but I got married over the summer. And if you're like me, you had a pretty busy summer or didn't really get around to playing much. Even as a music teacher, I didn't get to playing all that much. So the last couple of days, I've been trying to get my fingers back in shape for playing my bass. And also playing violin and all the other awesome orchestra instruments we've got, like the viola and the cello. But bass is what I play in an orchestra, and I have my first rehearsal in a few weeks, so my fingers are a little out of shape. I wanted to let you in on just how things are going for me practicing, because you might come across a few of the same things as me, like you don't like the sound of your bow. I've been dealing with a lot of that today, and I thought maybe it would be helpful for you to see how I have been getting my left hand with fingers and my right hand especially back in shape so I am ready to go for the fall. The song that I'm going to be working on is called Saraband. It's one of my favorites to play. It's from the first book that George Vance put together for bass players. And that's a really great collection for younger bass players, but it's just a really nice song as well. You'll see me moving my hand around a little bit, but I want you to pay special attention to what my right hand is doing with my bow. As always, when you're getting ready to play, make sure that you start with your very best posture. For my bass, I'm making sure that my bass is balancing by my left pocket. I should be able to, with no hands, have my bass balance on my hip wow, that's a really good one. This is like a long time. I'm also on carpet today. So your instrument should be in good position. If you are playing a cello, you want to make sure that your bottom peg is just by your left ear. If you're playing violin or viola, that your instrument stays in the same position when you hold it with only your chin, no hands. Okay. I also started off today with just doing some open strings playing with my bow, and I'm also checking that I'm starting with my very best bow hold. My thumb, my fingers that wrap around as a bass player. If I'm a cello player and I'm working on my advanced bow hold, my pinky's bouncing on top. Same thing for violins and violas. I have to wrap around for my big bass bow though. All right, so I'm gonna check some first sounds. I think I did about 8 notes right there. Could you hear some good, rich tone from my bass? I did, some of the time, but sometimes I also heard some kind of stinky notes, or they didn't have the same richness. I'm gonna play around just a little bit with that highest string one more time. I'm gonna give it a little bit more weight at the beginning. There I did 4 notes. I liked my first 2. I did not like my third because it wasn't rich. It had a little squawky sound. If you get squawky sound, you can dig in a little bit more. Sometimes we need to just use a longer bow. Don't use a 2-inch bow. We need to use usually a lot of it, especially on the smaller instruments like violins or cello. All right, one more time. I liked my 1, 2, and 3, but my 4 kind of squawky. If you're pushing your bow, sometimes you need a little bit more push or a little bit more pressure as you're pushing your bow up. I'll do it one more time and then I'm going to get into Saraband. A little extra push when I get out to the tip here. Again, a little extra tip because I'm a little extra pressure and weight because I'm out at the tip right now. Ooh, I liked the sound of all 4 of those notes. How about you? Pause the video for a second and try this on probably on your A string for violins and cellos and violas. If you are a bass player, use it on your highest string on G. Okay. I'll wait. Okay, and we're back. I'm going to play a little bit of Saraband. because this is one of my favorite songs to go back to. Pick one of your favorite songs after you hear me practice and see if you can use some of these same ideas to play a favorite song of yours. Maybe like Twinkle Twinkle, or that's the... And you kind of know what happens after that. Or maybe Rolling Along. Play it pizzicato first, and then add your bow. Do you remember the word for our bow? When we're using our bow, it's called arco. I played a couple of snippets. If you don't really like the sound of your instrument, and if you haven't played for a while, that's something that you can kind of expect. It takes a little time for our fingers to get back in the groove, and especially for a hand that uses the bow, to remember exactly what makes the best sound. Okay, so play around a little bit. Here's some of my song, Saraband. I'm really excited to share this with you. Bass players, I'm starting in a place called third position. You'll learn about this year. And that's the song Saraband, written by George Vance. What do you think? Did you like that song? Did you like the sound of my instrument? I know I heard a few notes that got kind of squawky, and I'm gonna go back and find one of those spots. It was after kind of this high stuff. Especially if you're a bass player, check out what I'm doing in the middle of this piece. I'm jumping my hand up from a normal place to what's called thumb position. Helps me to get some really high notes for bass. Cool. I remember that last note that I played being kind of squawky the first time around. So I might just play that little chunk a few more times. And I think I'll have a part 2 video once I've practiced this a little bit more. But here's a little taste of, again, I might just do a teeny little chunk like this. How many times did you hear me play that little part? The do, 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 do. Yeah, just 3 that time. When I practice something like getting a really good sound every single time, I'll probably go through that 7 to 10 times on a teeny little chunk. So I'll be back in a minute. I'll be back with a second video, kind of a part 2, with a really beautiful version of Saraband. Take a minute to practice a song, to find and then practice a song that you really want to play well again this fall. See you soon.